Hi, and welcome to 15 Minutes With. My name is Joe Tommaso, and I'll be hosting this segment. Before beginning the show, I'd like to address a few things. Recently, 15 Minutes With was featured in numerous papers and magazines, as well as television news stories. While these stories, at least for the most part, put our mission of helping people avoid going to prison by showing them what could happen and what the aftermath can potentially be, their stories more or less centered on or around our guest, Stephen Hayes. First and foremost, I'd like to express my condolences as well as my apologies to the Pettit family. There are no words I can say to express how deeply sorry I am for your loss. The purpose of the interview, and interviewing Hayes in particular, was not to cause you further suffering, but to show what evil is in the world, as well as how things can spiral and what could happen when a person uses and possibly becomes addicted to drugs. Hayes was not interviewed to give him a voice. He was interviewed in the hopes that another person becoming like Stephen Hayes opens their eyes and seeks help, turning the remainder of their lives around. While I am not a proponent or an opponent of the death penalty, the savagery of this incident screams for nothing less than the death penalty. If it were not for Governor Daniel Malloy signing legislation abolishing the death penalty here in Connecticut, this evilness would not be among us, at least from these two. Instead, we will feed, clothe, and house them, as well as provide them with any medical care whatsoever for whatever ails them at our expense. There was no justice in this case. As every listener knows, I interview offenders and ex-offenders throughout the United States. A lot of them reach out to me. These are offenders reaching out to me, letting me know of their dislike of both of these individuals. One ex-offender wrote me that Hayes does not deserve to even see the light of day. A corrections officer wrote me to tell me whenever either of these guys were moved in the institution, they would be surrounded by guards. Numerous guards at that. And this was not for the safety of people in the institution or staff. This was for the offenders' safety. Here in Connecticut, they had targets on their back. This was the real reason for their transfer to Pennsylvania. Our purpose of 15 Minutes With is to present you, the public, with stories from prisoners and ex-offenders from throughout the United States. It is our hope that after you hear these stories, you'll look at yourself, and if you see you're heading down that path, you'll ask for help. You'll get your life straight and not wind up inside those prison walls. If you like this show, please click the like and subscribe buttons on whatever platform you're using. You can also help this show and keep it going by making a donation at paypal.me/Joe Tommaso. That's paypal.me/JoeTomaso. And now, without further ado, here is this segment of 15 Minutes With Hayes' rebuttal and my rebuttal to Hayes.
Oh, this is a prepaid collect call from
Stephen?
an inmate at SCI Green. This is a call from Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution. Green. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2. If you would like to if you have any concern that the person you are speaking with is in mental health crisis or suicidal, please call the State Correctional Institution immediately. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hello?
Good evening, Steve. How are you?
Good.
Let me throw some questions at you really quick. Actually, before we even start this, I want to give you a heads up. I want to let you know I had several people, who knew the Pettits contact me. 2 in particular were actually friends with Haley and Michaela. My question to you is, they were obviously distraught when they got a hold of me. If these 2 people were in front of you, what would you say to them?
I am very sorry. Nobody was ever supposed to get hurt that night, and they have a right to feel the way they feel. I would never diminish that in any way, shape, or form. I wish I could take it back. I can't. The only thing I can do at this point is utilize what I have at this point to maybe prevent something like that from happening, and that's all this podcast is for.
Okay, so you called me after the article came out and the TV reports. How did you actually find out? Because you called me literally the day after the article.
I found out from my defense attorney.
Okay.
And there were a couple things. One, I guess there was a typo in the New Haven Register where they had talked about my remorse, but then they said Hayes has no remorse. And my attorney felt that they were actually talking about Cohen Zajeski.
Actually, I didn't see that, but I'll double check it.
The other thing was when they talked about the amazing person I met. Her name is actually Miss Kimberly Scott. She's a transgender inmate here.
Right. I don't think they wanted to release the other person's name. I think that's what that was.
Oh, okay. Well, I was okay with that because, I mean, she really is, someone very special in my life. It's not, she's like my sister.
Right.
And, I just felt that was kind of important because it leads to what was going on with the whole podcast as well.
Right. Okay, so what did you think? What did you think of the article overall?
What was read to me, I thought the article was actually very well written. The point being that this podcast is to get the message out there that it doesn't always take a monster to do a monstrous act. I mean, this is an issue where one night in my life, a few hours, has now defined who I am.
This is a call from Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution. Green. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
My whole life. And it's mitigation evidence. It's been fact-checked. There's nothing made up. It doesn't make me look like a great person. In fact, I kind of look like an asshole. I wasn't the nicest person, but it gets people to understand why I did that. But it doesn't paint me as a monster. What it does is it shows that I was an addict. I suffered from severe gender dysphoria because of things that happened early in life, and because I did not get help for it, this ended up happening. At the time, I was in recovery, but I wasn't working my program because my pride got in the way, my ego got in the way, and I went off my program. And like I said, I accept full responsibility for all that. But at any point in my life, I could have reached out for help, and it was all there. I actually want to interrupt you because this was actually one of the questions later on, and I'm sure this is on people. I'm going to tell you. I don't know if your attorney told you or not, but a lot of the remarks, and the comments were really negative. Not just about the contact, about me giving you, implied I was giving you a voice on the podcast, and, basically that you were running the podcast, et cetera, et cetera.
Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution. Green. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So I want to ask you a question. You understand why the comments were negative, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on that point, something you just said, I want to throw this out there to you. Do you realize, and I'm not trying to be rude, I'm not trying to be confrontational, do you realize that when everything was going on at that house, I know you said the night before you I don't know if you took off or you just didn't go into those 3 houses or whatever, but getting over to the night that everything happened with the Pettit family, you had a chance to come out of that. You would have got time, but you had a chance to come out of that as a hero. And that was if at some point you had gone into the house, into the bank or anywhere and said, hey, look, this is going on. I'm part of it. Why didn't you turn him in?
At that point, I didn't know that anything had happened. He was with Michaela most of the night, sitting on the bed. He had told me that he was doing it to keep her calm. When I went into the room, I didn't see anything out of distress. She never reached out to me. When she had a change of clothes, when I came back from the gas station.
Mm-hmm.
He said, she had wet herself, and I let her take a shower. It's like, okay, and she was calm. So I'm thinking, okay, there's nothing going on. I had let Haley get water. I mean, I was doing everything I can to try and make an ugly situation humane. So I mean,
Right.
all night, none of that ugly stuff happened when I wasn't there.
Right.
And I mean, I wish my gun was real, because if it was, I would have shot him right there. When he had told me what he told me, all I had was a plastic gun, and he had a knife and a bat. That's where I was struggling. What to do when I saw the police car, and then I lost it. I snapped at that point.
People are saying that, because of the story, people are saying that you haven't been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. They're also claiming that, this is all part of the game, similar to what was happening when you were threatening suicide. I know that both you and, your attorney had offered to, provide me with the prescriptions from the hospital. I guess they're just looking for clarification, and actually they want to...
And I'm fine with it. And I would like to address that directly, that, this game started when I was 16 years old. I'll send you the psychiatric report.
Mm-hmm.
You can post it. That shows I was diagnosed with sexual identity disorder at 16-year-old in Mount Sinai Hospital. Was never addressed.
Mm-hmm.
My father tried to beat it out of me. A lot of things went on. And as for a game of the suicide, I ended up in intensive care twice. I was literally minutes away from death. It wasn't a game, and I still struggle with that today. But it's easy for people to say that because, it makes them feel better. And I may
Well, that's the other thing, too. The crime was horrific. I've said that in the beginning of the podcast, not this segment, but other segments. This was a horrific crime. I can understand people being angry about it, and you understand why they're angry. There's 3 innocent people that are gone because of what happened.
That's why I was suicidal. I mean, I have to live with this, knowing that you're right, I could have been a hero. If I had gone upstairs, they wouldn't be dead. If I heard them yell, they wouldn't be dead. I mean, it destroys my life, thinking about this. And, being diagnosed with gender dysphoria, it is a diagnosis. I have that. I've had it my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an excuse. And, the people that say that, they're ignorant. When you look it up and you understand what it is, it causes severe depression, suicide, PTS, OCD, a whole host of things. And my self-destructive lifestyle, I hated who I was. And when people said that they liked who I am or loved me, how can you love me when you don't even know who I am? Show me a fake person. And you're saying you love me, so how can I believe that when I didn't even like myself? But it's not an excuse. The crime was horrific. It was never intended to happen that way by me. And that's something I have to live with the rest of my life. And I can never get over it.
Well, you're saying, here's the thing too, and I think this is what people need to hear. You're saying that you're living with it, and that's one thing. And you've apologized in the past, but I think what they're going with is the fact that Dr. Pettit has to live with it too.
Oh, and I totally understand that, and I feel so bad for him. That's why I'm not pursuing nothing. With gender identity disorder, I can actually meet the first element of what they call extreme emotional distress. I'm not doing that. It's not an excuse to get out of jail. I screwed up. I belong here. And it would be just wrong on every level for me to put Mr. Pettit and the family through that. And it's wrong for my co-defendant to do it. I am totally against that, but I don't have control over him in his case.
I mean, I think that's part of it as well. His going to the Supreme Court to try to get out of this now. I mean, you've already said, be a man about it. Do your time.
Stand for that.
Well, like I said, it's very emotionally, charged, and I can understand why. And it sounds like you understand as well. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments, mostly negative. It's just, what people need to understand is I'm not giving you, having you on this podcast to, give Stephen Hayes a voice. Let Stephen Hayes talk to the world and say whatever. You're here with a purpose, and that purpose is to stop somebody else from doing anything even remotely close to what you guys did and steer them away.
In 2000, I think it was 14, CNN reached out to me to reach out to Darren Winton, the home invader that was on the run out of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I have the letter, and I'll send that to you. I agreed to do it. I said, addiction, mental health issues, there's a whole lot of reasons why a lot of stuff happens. When people just get angry and start pointing fingers, nothing ever gets solved. But when you understand what the issues are and you start to treat the issues, you can prevent this stuff from happening. And if I can just prevent one person from going down my path, then my life now has some purpose.
Okay. So I'm going to end this interview right now, and we're at 14-minute mark, and I hope people get this and understand what's really going on here. I really do. Thank you for listening to 15 Minutes With. I hope you've enjoyed this edition. If you have enjoyed this edition of 15 Minutes With, please hit the like and the subscribe button. You can also help me keep this show going and watch it get better by donating to paypal.me/Joe Tomaso. That address again is paypal.me/JoeTomaso. 15 Minutes With is constantly looking for new content to upload and new people to interview. If you would like to share your story, or if there's someone you would like to see us interview, please email us at insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. That email address again is insidetherazorwire@gmail.com. Last but not least, again, if you like to support this channel, please subscribe and hit the like button. Until next time, we'll be seeing you